We can get started at any time.
All right, so we just ended the closed session under section 239(2)(b) and D of the Municipal Act. And we don't, do we have an item for the Rising Report, Jen?
The only thing I have is that council directs staff to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Excellent. Councilor McKinnon, second by Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? And that's carried. And I will welcome anybody that is joining us on our webinar through Zoom tonight, which I don't see any attendees so far. And if you're watching this on YouTube later on, thank you for taking the time to join us on our budget process for 2021. With that being said, I will note that the reasons for going into closed session prior to this was for human resources and also the CAO recruitment update. So we're going to jump into our first presentation, and that's from Morgan Calvert, our acting township manager, and it's kind of the overview of what we're looking at for 2021. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council, budget committee, and staff. I'll just bring this presentation. So my presentation is basically just to talk about the high-level budget impacts and some of the external influences that we're experiencing through 2020 and 2021. Before we get there, just a highlight to those who are watching and for council, we provided council with a draft budget just before the holidays, just for their awareness and review. We've been able to tighten that budget up until this point, January 27th. We got some work to do. Today is our first budget meeting, January 27th. We have our second meeting on February 3rd, our third meeting on February 10th, and if required, we'll have our fourth meeting on February 22nd with the aim to approve the township's budget by March 15th of this year. So getting into some of the 2020 highlights and changes that have occurred that, you know, to understand where we're going, we got to kind of understand where we've come from. So in 2020, the township went through a significant organizational change, which resulted in a county and Adelaide Metcalfe management agreement. We've been able to get quite a bit of work done in this year, but we have lots to go. In 2020, we undertook an organizational review that allowed us to really understand the capacities and capabilities of the organization and how we can move forward. We ended up through council priority and direction, we developed a compensation program that resulted in a grid matrix for staff to understand their compensation and how we can drive performance through the organization. We had a significant issue with the Kerwood wastewater treatment plant in that we had to hire a contracted service in Aqua to help resolve some of the issues that we were experiencing there, lack of training and a little bit of oversight issues. We worked through our first year of the joint building services implementation. We ended up losing our drainage superintendent to a retirement, so we replaced that service through a shared service with Southwest Middlesex. I think it's been going pretty well. We also brought on a bylaw enforcement officer in MEU. Through that bylaw enforcement officer, we are going to develop a enforcement program to be implemented in 2021. We had a number of issues to resolve in 2020. We've still got a few more, but then at the same time, just to remind council and everybody else that's watching, we dealt with a little thing called a pandemic in 2020, which has absolutely changed the way that we work, live, and play today. So in saying that, we have some budget impacts. So these are some of the things that we're looking at that are fairly significant. Our OMPF transfer was reduced from 2020 to 2021. 2020's OMPF transfer was about 512,000, and now we're looking at 435,000. So that's a pretty big jump. We did receive some money under the province's Safe Restart program. We got about $65,000 in 2020, and we have $18,000 coming as part of our operational expenditures for the 2021 budget. Insurance rates have increased significantly across the province. We're seeing between 15 and 17% across Ontario. Adelaide Metcalfe's budget impact for insurance is about 13.5%. The 2021 OSIF formula funding amount is coming in the form of about $90,000. This is to be used for capital infrastructure investments. In 2020, we also received about $90,000. So for council's awareness and the members of the public, 1% budget increase is the equivalent of about $75,000. And then the other factor that we're up against is consumer price index from November 2019 to November 2020 was about 1%. December to December at the same time frame was about 0.7%. As I mentioned before, 2020 was the first year of the Joint Building Services Department. Things will change as the service is further implemented. The budget that we see today is a very good representation of current state and what we can expect to see in 2021. Our fee study is to be completed in early 2021 as well, and that will just help to inform revenues for the department. Again, 2021 impacts. In 2020, we developed, a new compensation program for the township and staff that is to be implemented January 1st, 2021. We're also looking for some Kerwood Park improvements. They're lined up for Q2 of 2021 with a tender to be released in the coming months. We also submitted a application for the Canada Summer Jobs grant, and this is to see a summer student participate with the township. We're going to hopefully focus them on records retention and digitizing some of our paper. Again, we have some significant questions along Center Road that we have to answer with regard to water, wastewater. Coulter will speak to this in his roads presentation, but we've deferred some public works items from previous years totaling about $2.4 million. These aren't currently included in the 2021 draft budget for council's awareness, but these are Melwood Drive, Wardell Drive, and Scotchmere Drive. Salary and benefits within the budget, again, has been updated with that new compensation program. Vacant roles have been addressed. And we've proposed additional resources to address some of the gaps, and we'll go through those as we get through our department presentations. So saying that, I'll stop there for a moment, provide opportunity for any questions.
All right, is there any questions so far from members of council?
Okay.
All right, seeing none. So the next presentation is from Coulter, our Public Works Manager. I'm not sure who's going to throw up the presentation.
Yep, I got that.
Excellent.
Okay, Coulter, you just tell me when you want the next slide, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Morgan. Public Works Manager. The Public Works Manager is responsible for the management and delivery of public works services, including roads, sidewalks, bridges, culverts, development, supervision, and review of winter control operations, supervision of drainage superintendent, maintenance, supervision, and review of township landfills, including personnel, fleet maintenance, and supervision of Kerwood wastewater treatment facility. You go to the next one, Morgan. Thank you. What departments will the Public Works Manager be presenting today? Roadways is a huge one. Highway 81 sewers. I'll be teaming up with Morgan on that one. Kerwood wastewater treatment plant, landfill, trees, parks and recreation, and drain maintenance. 2020 year in review for roadways. The billing for the drainage maintenance roadways was caught up from 2017. This does not include construction drains, as they have grants that need to be applied for. Staff worked really hard this year trying to catch up on the billing, and as you can see in the budget, it is quite a number, but it had to get done. So it's nice that we're moving on. The County of Middlesex assumed Pike Road and a portion of Malferry Drive for the county road and bridge assumption study. You'll see a line in the budget as well for that. I believe it's around $67,000 for them to take that over. Newly constructed sidewalks were completed on Napperton Drive and Pike Road. We've had lots of good feedback. Residents are really happy on that. Catesville Drive received an asphalt lift to extend the life of the road dramatically. Next slide, Morgan, please. The streets in Adelaide Village were asphalted. That's Kent and Feasy Street. Murphy Drive and Cuddy Drive got the tar and chip that it was supposed to. Culvert number 3 replacement on Wilson Road was a success, and Napier Bridge was repaired and the load limit was reduced. Hopefully we can extend the life of that for years to come. And the roads department continues to maintain and deliver all services in accordance with legislative requirements and financial resources. Next one, Morgan, please. Outstanding projects from 2020. The County Lane construction project. We couldn't move forward with that. We did bring in legal. There are some issues there, so I'll leave it at that. But council will be made aware of our findings and how to move forward. The engineering for the consolidated garage, it was held back after all the changes this year. We wanted to make sure on council's direction before moving forward, whether it's a consolidated garage or just a sand salt coverall in Adelaide. But we are looking for direction on that as well. The road patrol GPS, with COVID-19 this year, we couldn't meet with a few of the different companies that offered this. So we did defer to this year. We just couldn't get it done. And the storm scepter clean out on Healy Avenue, it's a pretty big job. It's going to take probably 6 or 8 loads, and they're heavy, and they'll be crossing over the new sidewalk. So we just decided to push them to 2021. It wasn't a huge rush. We did have a little bit of time, so that's why that didn't get done. And it's a fairly pricey project, but again, I think the smartest decision was to push it to 2021. That's good, Morgan. Proposed changes for roadways. PPE clothing allowance. Staff is trying to come up with a policy as per department instead of as per person with that. So again, that will come to council for their consideration and approval. Sidewalk winter maintenance, that you'll see a line in the budget for that this year, just with the new sidewalks being installed and the maintenance in Kerwood. We just wanted to separate it from the winter maintenance portion of the budget, so everybody's aware of what the costs are. Cement crushing, as some people are aware, there's a lot of cement at the landfills from over the years. We do want to get that crushed down into something more manageable for road construction projects, whether it's culverts or road base. The county road assumption, I already touched on that. You'll see that again in the budget. And an on-call program for staff. This is just another policy that we will be working towards to reward some of the roads department staff in the winter months for being on call on the weekends. Again, this is another policy that it will be brought forward to council for their review and approval. This is not set in stone. It's something that we are looking to implement. That's good, Maureen. Proposing to hire a foreman to assist with resource and ESA challenges. And this is something that I myself feel very strong about. I know the previous public works manager was in favor of this as well. With the restructuring of Adelaide Metcalfe, the public works manager role has changed significantly. A foreman will do all the road patrolling in the winter months. That consists of 4 a.m. wake ups, and you're patrolling after 4 p.m. So it's a long day, and it is something that has to be done for minimum maintenance standards, and somebody has to do it. So moving forward on that, the schedule would allow employees to get the necessary time off to be in compliance with Ontario regulations. This role would also allow the municipality to have an alternate snowplow operator. It's something that we do have somebody, but this is something that we run into all the time. If somebody's off or somebody has something planned on the weekends, we do need a backup. The summer months would consist for the foreman doing all the locates in the township, direct and supervise employees and contractors on various job sites, including all construction and sidewalk construction. They would respond to complaints within the municipality, ensuring proper action is taken. Again, just with the restructuring of the public works manager, time is needed in the office more than ever, whether it's tendering, asset management, applying for grants, budgeting, overseeing various departments now like landfill, drainage, parks and rec, and so on. A foreman is definitely something that we need to consider moving forward, just with the way things are. Municipal asset management program funding for road assessment. That's something that we've been working on with other municipalities as well. Street scan. It's going to help us tremendously with budgeting and asset management for future road projects. It's basically going to put numbers and stats and control and detect and basically put numbers to it, so it's not just personal opinion. Road patrol GPS, just something that I did touch on that we did talk about in previous years. Going to get done this year. It gets rid of the paper. And it's a liability thing. Now it's all it'll be all on the phone or tablet. The card lock system to better track fuel usage for our fleet. Now that we have the joint building services department, this is just a great way to track who's using how much fuel, and just so we know at the end of the year, so we can allocate the funds correctly. And a road use bylaw development. Basically, this is something that we'd like to get in place, so it controls whether people can put sprinkler systems on road allowance or all the way to half load restriction. So it's something that that we do have some of, but we need a lot more of it. So that's good for that slide, Morgan. 2021 challenges for roadways. In order to maintain our current infrastructure and assets, we should consider the long-term expenses and effects of decision-making. Construction that involves surface change, like gravel road to a turn chip, or new construction like sidewalks, increases the maintenance portion of the budget year to year substantially. Everybody kind of knows what this is about. It's just decisions we make now, just like Walker's and Scotchmere Drive, changing those roads from gravel to turn chip. It forced us to keep a $400,000 snowplow, and now we have to look at replacing these every 10 or so years. So we just have to keep that in mind and moving forward. That's good for that slide, Morgan. 2021 proposed projects. School Road. This is between Mullaferry Drive and Egremont Drive. It is a turn chip road right now. It was talked about last year, and we wanted to push it onto this year's budget. It will, if council passes this, it will get asphalted. Denning Road, between Calvert Drive and Murphy Drive, again, same thing. It was talked about last year with council, and it is on pace to get asphalted. It is a turn chip right now, turn chip road. Napier Road, turn chip from Winter Drive to Melwood Drive. There was a petition brought to council roughly 3 years ago, two or 3 years ago, to hard surface the portion of road between Winter Drive and Melwood Drive. So it is in the budget this year for council's consideration. Between that and Wardell Drive, it does get the most traffic on a gravel portion of road. And you will see just in the draft 5-year plan, Wardell Drive is in there. In talking with the bordering municipality, that's where they see they could possibly make it fit. Newly constructed sidewalks on Center Road West, Panel Lane North, 625 meters. This is as per the motion on April 14th, 2020. That's in the budget as well. School Road concrete blocks culvert replacement. This again, I met with our engineer. Every year we do go over our bridges and culverts, and this one is on target to get replaced. It's one of those old concrete box culverts that it falls off right on the edge of the road, and it is dangerous. So it's it is a good project, and moving forward, getting that cleaned up. And Melwood Drive asphalt patch from Kerwood Road west. It is in need of an asphalt lift and a couple different dig outs just for the base there to bring it up for heavy traffic there. That's good, Morgan. Capital purchases proposed in 2021. Tandem snowplow, if ordered in 2021, we wouldn't receive it until 2023. So that's 2 years away. Maintenance costs on the older trucks are rising, and standards for snow plowing are getting higher. We can't afford breakdowns. I know the last few weeks we have had a few breakdowns that have cost us, and not touching some of our hard top roads for 8-10 hours. And just the way things go, I think we have to replace our fleet on time and think ahead here, because if we don't get a truck for 2 years, our trucks at that time will be 17 years old, 14 and 13, and then the new one will be 6. So I think it is something that we definitely have to consider this year. Consulting engineering for the consolidated garage, it was allocated in the 2020 budget but not spent. I did touch on that before, so I won't get too crazy on that. Just looking for council's direction just to keep moving forward with that or not. And consulting and engineering for Mullaferry Drive construction. This is a project that I brought to council last year just to get it in everybody's heads that it is something that we need to be looking at. This is basically like Adelaide Metcalfe's highway. I mean, we get 600, 700 cars a day on that road. And we're probably 2 years away budget wise from doing anything about it, but we can't keep putting band-aids on that road. It's just unsafe. It needs some shouldering. It needs widening out, culvert replacements, some ditching, and some base work. It's not going to be quite as intense as a total reconstruction. I know the numbers in that draft 5-year plan might scare you, but that is the absolute most it'll be. So just in talking with the engineer, we're hoping to have that down to around 650. But we do have to do some test plots, some boring, see what the base is like. And I would like to move forward on that, just so we're ahead of the game. I know the county has planned on their reconstruction of the Mullaferry portion in, I believe, 2 or 3 years. So if it works out and we can sort of join up with them, great. If not, we'll do it ourselves. But it's something we need to be thinking about. That's good, Morgan. And I'll let you take this one if you want.
Yep, for sure. So I got a few pieces of information I gotta put together for council a little bit better. So I'm hoping, if council doesn't mind, we can defer these next 2 slides until the next meeting. Mr. Chair, is that okay?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. So Colter, right back over to you.
Right on. 2020 year in review for the Kerwood wastewater treatment plant. Morgan touched on this before. In order to be in compliant with the MOE regulations for our Kerwood wastewater treatment plant, Ontario Clean Water Agency was brought in to assist with all operations. The removal and disposal and cleaning of the system was taken care of, as this was a requirement due to the condition assessment for the system to work at its full potential. This was done a few weeks ago. So you will see it come through council the invoice for that. Next slide's good, Morgan. Proposed changes, they accounted for contracted services to look after all operations. Minimal maintenance costs to the system in 2021, as Aqua will be reviewing all moving parts and providing staff with recommendations for our asset management plan for the future. Review of user fees for the system by staff and council. Jennifer did bring something to council on that, I believe, or right before Christmas. So I'm sure we'll be digging that up again here in the near future. 2020 year in review landfill. Landfill operator was hired to assist with operations. The Kellam Road landfill permanently closed. School Road landfill topographic survey was completed. The landfill building purchased and is on site on the School Road landfill. After administration changes, the closure plan for Kellam Road landfill was deferred to 2021. That's good. All right, 2021 proposed changes for the landfill. In the budget, we have something in there for temporary construction fence to contain garbage on the site. There was a fence installed there years back, but we do need something that we can move every year as the site moves. So I think that's a great idea. The closure plan for Kellam Road landfill, it is on target for this year. In talking with the ministry, everything looks great, and that money will be coming out of reserves. I believe last year's budget, council agreed to that, so it's in there again. Possible site expansion for the School Road landfill. So the site expansion for School Road, it was brought to my attention recently that we were 2 years away from the allowed waste line. I've been working with our contractor that's been doing our annual monitoring and our topographic surveys, as well as I've been working with the ministry on this one. It looks like about a 12 to 18 month process to get this expansion. And the actual cost and process, I will bring it up to council as well as Morgan, I'm sure, in the near future as we learn of all the issues. So this is something that, again, we were all told, the site's very large. We got lots of years ahead of us there, but there was a restriction on how far we could move on that for waste. So yeah, it just came to my attention. So you guys will, you'll see it as we see it. And one more thing I believe on that, review of the landfill fee schedule. This hasn't been touched on for some time. I believe it is due for us to look over it and change some of them fees now that we do have two guys back there, and things they do cost a lot more. So we want to get a little more cost recovery back there. That's good, Morgan. 2020 year in review for the trees. Our annual tree program carried out as it has in previous years. That's good. And no changes to the 2021 budget. And staff will develop and launch a public education awareness campaign to better promote fair and equitable access to the program. We want this to be posted on the website and Facebook and come up with a bit of a program so everybody is made aware of what's out there for trees and how many each resident can get and where they can plant them. Again, that will come to council for their consideration. We won't just do that without getting your input. And 2020 year in review, Parks and Recreation. Due to COVID-19, the Kerwood Park was not able to facilitate any functions or events this year. The last remaining dugout was removed, and new aluminum benches were installed on both dugout pads at the main ball diamond. That's good, Morgan. 2021 proposed changes, Parks and Rec. Update the bleacher seating, consulting and engineering for Kerwood Park improvements with streets, and two-phase approach to the Kerwood Park improvements. This year will be the new construction of the building with the washroom facilities. This was touched on, I believe, right before Christmas. Chris Trini brought a report to council with all our findings on that so we can move forward early 2021. And 2020 year in review, drain maintenance. Morgan touched on this as well. The shared service agreement with Southwest Middlesex for part-time drainage superintendent. Billing for the maintenance drains getting caught up. I touched on that before. And construction drains remain to be completed due to grants that are attached to the projects and not completed previously. Again, we will be working towards getting that cleaned up. Proposed changes for drain maintenance. The shared service agreement with Southwest Middlesex for the part-time drain superintendent will be continuing through 2021. And this is just a draft 5-year capital roads plan for Adelaide Metcalfe. I mean, it's not set in stone. This is something that I came up with over the course of the year with some help from our engineer. It's just for council to look at and just kind of get a beat on what the future looks like. Again, the Mulla Ferry Drive project, it will be a 3-year sort of project, 3.7 kilometers a year. And like I said, we're not proposing it to be 925,000, but that'd be the utmost it'd be. So again, we have to do some boreholes and the engineer has to take a good long look at it. And again, we would like to propose an asphalt final surface on Mulla Ferry Drive. Like I said, that's Adelaide Metcalfe's highway, so we want to take care of our residents there and have a really good road for them. So other than that, that's just food for thought. It will change obviously with this year's budget and after we get that street scan going and get some more information. So I'll leave that. And it's just a quick summary on all the trucks from the past few years. It seems like every 2 or 3 years we do pour a fair amount of money into the truck. That's just because some of the moving parts like the sanders and salters and whatnot. I mean, 3 years of having salt run through there, you do have to replace a lot of parts. So that's just a quick breakdown for you for your information. And any questions? Sorry if I was long-winded.
Oh no, that was good. I'm sure there's lots of questions, and Morgan might throw those slides back up depending on what the questions are, but we'll start off with Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I was looking at your draft 5-year review. I notice in 2022, you've got Langan between Townsend and Sexton as going back to tar and chip. And I'm wondering, given that there's quite a few gravel trucks, being that there's a couple pits down that road, whether you think tar and chip is good enough. And the same way Mulla Ferry's a highway in the south, in the north, Langan can be a bit of a highway because it goes right to Highway 21. So people on the north end sometimes use Langan to go all the way to the beach. So just wondering about whether you think tar and chip is adequate there, given the work we've done on pricing asphalt in the long term.
Thanks, Marianne, for the question. I do believe for Langan Drive and that portion, it wasn't too long ago we rebuilt it. This is just to reseal some of the cracks. That road is actually in decent condition. I think we're 7 to 10 years away from changing that over to an asphalt surface. But I do believe that road is still in really good shape, and this will just extend that life for us another 7 years. So.
Yeah, on that point, if Lambton doesn't improve their side of it, it won't become much of a highway anyway.
All right. Any other questions? No, I see you muted yourself. So Councillor Brody.
Yeah, so just another question on tar chip. So everything that you have on here, like Walker's next, the tar chip is kind of a top up for those roads, correct? Because we weren't talking if we were going to change any roads over, we were maybe going to certainly price the asphalt for what the cost difference is anymore, correct?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, that's just like the 7 year resurfacing just to seal it up. It's not due for any reconstruction or anything. When it is due at probably the 15-year mark for that road after it's been constructed, I think definitely to pulverize it and put an asphalt surface is, like we've talked about in the past, is I think the way to go. So this is just basically a maintenance part of it. It's still in good shape. It's just a reseal.
Yeah, good. And then one other question I had, and I think this is maybe for all of us to counsel, and I don't know this answer, but I'm just looking at you're trying to make Mullaferry Road a 3-year project. And I know it's an expensive project, but with how much traffic is on that road, are we smarter to either get a grant or probably not a grant, but a loan, and try to make that a 2-year project instead? Because 3 years on that busy of a roadway, and you're right, it needs work. It's yeah, I can barely, well, you have trouble driving it down with big trucks and stuff because it drops off on the sides. Like, are we smarter to, if we have the capability and we can get the assets, to make that a 2-year project instead of a 3-year project, just because just the high amount of traffic that is, that ties that road up for 3 years.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's a great idea if we can make that happen, for sure. Any of these projects we can bring down to less time, it's a great idea, especially like you said on Mullaferry. There's 600-700 cars a day, so you don't want to tie that road up for 3 years.
Yeah.
Morgan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just to help with the question, Councillor Brody mentioned loans or otherwise. So Infrastructure Ontario has a really good loan program that we could take advantage of. They have low interest rates. Not to get too far ahead of the county, but the county had just provided a report to County Council last Tuesday, I believe, that talked about the sale of a couple properties and the resulting funds, and what they were hoping to do with some of that money, which was to also provide infrastructure loans to the local municipalities. So that was just in concept. We haven't seen that program developed by any means yet, but that was their intent for some of those funds. So we have a couple options in regard to leveraging loans or otherwise, if council wants to fast track some projects.
So Morgan, just to add to that, so there's already the loan program from the county already. It's just what the county is talking about is adding additional funds to that fund. So it's already there. It's just a matter of us either applying for it and seeing if we can get approval for whatever project we're looking at. Okay, Councillor Clark and then Councillor McKinnon. Do you have a question?
I didn't, but I'll ask. So those county loans, are they interest free?
I believe they're interest free up to a certain dollar amount, but
Okay.
Morgan will look into it and get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McKinnon.
I believe that was right. I was just going to say I thought it was interest free. So
yep.
That was my question.
Okay. Councillor Brody.
Yeah, I have one other question. I really like this Kohler putting all the roads ahead of us, like for 5 years out. This is better than we've had before. I'd also like to see that with maybe more along the lines of all our equipment. I know you listed the 4 Mack trucks, and I'm starting to get more liking the idea of, okay, if it's 2 years out, yeah, we better be looking at replacement. But I think we need to look at what other things that we have out there, because that's something that we don't see every day. Like, is there a pickup truck that's already 10, 12 years old? Or, I just like to see a little more, kind of like you laid out the road schedule, kind of more like an equipment schedule as well.
Yeah, for sure, Mike. I think it's a great idea. I know we've been working with Jennifer, and I've been working with the consultant on the asset management, and that will bring out all of our fleet, backhoes, pickup trucks, the year's maintenance costs, future costs. So I think it's a great idea, Mike.
But isn't that the purpose of an asset management plan? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly the point of it, yes. All right. Is there any other questions so far on Coulter's budget? Yeah, Morgan.
Just to clarify on the asset management plan, the first version that municipalities are required is to have an asset management plan that talks about critical infrastructure. The next version is service levels associated to that infrastructure. And then the next phase of that asset management plan development is to include all of the assets of the municipality, to Councillor Brody's point, fleet as well. So Councillor Brody will have that asset management plan in development throughout 2021, and it will produce effectively what you're looking for.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I'm sure there will be questions probably by the time our next meeting comes around. So you're not out of the hot seat there, Coulter.
Oh, dude.
All right. If there's no other questions for Coulter, then I guess we'll move into Jennifer's presentation.
Great, Mr. Chair. I know it's 8:30 and we scheduled the meeting between 6 and 8. And I know we got off to a bit of a late start there. So I guess I would just pause for a moment and ask council if they're okay with probably, I think, Jen, your presentation is probably going to be about 20 minutes or so. Plus questions. Yeah, okay. If we're okay with that, then let's keep moving. I'm just bringing it up here, Jen. 1 second.
Yeah, that's fine. I have a binder in front of me too, so if you can keep up with me, I'll keep going.
Oh, I will try.
So this is just a little bit of history for council as to what the clerk and acting treasurer do. I'm not going to go into detail. Surely you guys know what the clerk does and what the treasurer does. So that's just speaking in regards to the acts and statutes. The budgets I'll be presenting tonight is animal control, bylaw enforcement, cemeteries, council, planning and zoning, provincial offenses, waste collection, livestock, tile drainage, conservation, recycling, and policing. So we'll start with animal control with 2020 year in review. In 2018, council passed a motion to have an agreement in place with Glencoe Animal Shelter, otherwise known as Vicky Kyle, which unfortunately was not completed. There was no door-to-door dog tagging in 2020 due to COVID, which resulted in a savings of $3,500 of commission that's normally paid to Vicky Kyle for dog tagging, going door to door. And due to COVID, no door-to-door dog tagging. Staff mailed the dog tags from the 2019 listing provided by Vicky Kyle. And it's the responsibility of the property owner to notify the office of any changes regarding ownership of their dogs. 2021 proposed budget changes. An agreement has been drafted and is in the process of being reviewed by affected parties. The effective date will be January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2025. There is a 3% increase in the contract cost for service for each year. Door-to-door commission is every 3 years at 25% of the dog tagging revenue. Council approved a 3-year dog tag program commencing in 2021 with the animal control officer going door to door, and dog tags will be billed annually by staff. Even though we're still in a pandemic, there are no challenges forecasted for 2021 beyond what we've already seen in 2020. Any bylaws pertaining to animal control and approved by council will be enforced by Vicky Kyle for animal control services in collaboration with myself. Bylaw enforcement, 2020 year in review. In 2020, changes to staffing resulted in a vacant position by bylaw enforcement. At the December 7th, 2020 council meeting, council appointed municipal enforcement unit as the bylaw enforcement officer for the township on a 1-year contract. Complaints received in October 2019 and actions taken since will be summarized by staff and given to MEU to enforce once a 4-step enforcement program has been developed. 2021 proposed changes. There are no changes to the 2021 proposed budget from 2020. Fortunately, there's no revenues to offset expenses for this portion of the budget. I guess that if any changes, it'll be for a full year versus for 2 months, I think is what was budgeted for 2020. 2020 cemeteries. The township operates and maintains 13 cemeteries throughout the township. There's no significant events to the budget in 2020. Staff is required by the province to report annually how many burials occur, and our only active cemetery is West Adelaide Cemetery. A license from the province is required in order to operate our cemeteries. 2021 proposed changes. There's no changes from 2021 to from 2020. Unfortunately, there's no revenues to offset expenses for this portion of the budget. 2020 council review. Due to COVID, some conferences and seminars were canceled or deferred to online or virtual. There was no significant events to the budget in 2020. In 2019, council passed a remuneration bylaw that dictates the expenses for council. And as per the Municipal Act, staff is responsible for making those expenses available to the public. Prior to publishing, a report will be generated for council review, which I'm hoping will be February 1st meeting. The 2020 actuals versus the 2020 budget saw a surplus of $16,809.84. The 2021 proposed budget changes, there's a proposed 3.53% increase in the budget for 2021 from 2020 due to the cost of living with salaries and wages for elected officials, COVID-19 supplies, equipment purchases, and telephone expenses. The COVID-19 pandemic does have an effect on this portion of the budget, as meetings, training sessions, conferences, and seminars are by virtual means to ensure business continuity, which therefore eliminates the mileage portion. For 2021, there's no capital projects forecasted or no operational changes. For 2020, for planning and zoning, due to COVID, there was a delay in planning applications being reviewed by council and the Committee of Adjustment. There was no deficit to this budget in 2020, as this budget depends on applications received. The County of Middlesex Planning Department is responsible for reviewing applications and providing notices and reports to the township as per the Planning Act. Township staff are responsible for circulating notices, reports, and decisions to appropriate individuals as per the Planning Act. And the 2020 actuals versus the 2020 budget saw a surplus in $13,891.07. 2021 proposed budget changes in planning and zoning. Again, it's difficult to predict the type and amount of planning applications that the township will receive in any given year. And the 2021 proposed revenue is based off of 2020, with the exception of official plan amendments, removing of holding provision, and site plan approval applications. At this time, staff is not anticipating on any of the above. Past budgets have dictated that the actuals are much higher than the budgeted amount. And for 2021, there's no capital projects forecasted and no operational changes. There's some housekeeping items to keep in the back of council's mind for 2021, and that's looking at the zoning bylaw consolidation. So every time we do a zoning bylaw amendment, those amendments should be consolidated into the zoning bylaw, which hasn't been occurring. It makes it difficult for the public and for staff to keep track of the zoning bylaw amendments that have been occurring. We should be looking at updating our official plan, which will be through the County of Middlesex as our planners. Better cost recovery for site plan control bylaw, and the design guidelines for development and packages to be created to give to the applicants. And then, of course, the fee for service bylaw should be looked at as well. 2020 year in review for provincial offenses. There was a significant decrease in revenue in this budget, and this is due to COVID and the provincial lockdown restrictions that were put in place by the province in March. Revenue from this budget comes from fines paid that have been approved through the Provincial Offences Act. So, for example, the Highway Traffic Act, tidy yard, if there's any tickets issued under any of those, and zoning bylaw infractions. Revenue for 2020 was strictly generated by the Highway Traffic Act fines and was down mainly due to COVID, less vehicles on the roadways due to provincial lockdown. 2021 proposed budget changes. It's difficult to predict the revenue for this portion of the budget, as it depends on individuals that receive tickets and fines, as mentioned in the previous slide. 2020 year in review for Blue Water Recycling, which is our waste collection contractor. There was a decrease in revenue for 2020 due to the cancellation of the garbage bag tags in April 2020, and that was due to COVID. Council made the decision in December 2019 to implement the wheelie bin program beginning in May. However, due to COVID, that was delayed a month. In August 2020, Council changed the program from bi-weekly pickup in the rural areas to weekly pickup. This resulted in an additional $50 per household. However, due to the timing of the decision from Council and the final tax billing preparations, the additional $50 per household was not applied to the billing. Therefore, it's not reflected in the 2020 revenues. The decision to go to the wheelie bin program decreased the overall expense of the program by approximately $10,000 for 2020. 2021 proposed changes. There is a proposed $29,000 decrease in the operations of this budget from 2020 to 2021, and this is due to switching to the wheelie bin program. In August 2020, Council changed the program from bi-weekly pickup in the rural areas to weekly pickup, and as previously stated, it's resulted in a charge of $50 per household, totaling $52,500 to offset the expense of the wheelie bin program. On the 2021 final tax bill, there will be an additional $50 under local charges for the weekly pickup change as approved by Council. 2020 year review for livestock. This is something that is through the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. It's called the Ontario's Wildlife Damage Compensation Program. And it depends on claims that come in from farmers or producers that come into the office where they claim that wildlife or predator caused damage or decrease to their livestock. There was no claims in Adelaide Metcalfe in 2020 regarding loss of any livestock. 2021 proposed changes for livestock. There's no changes to the 2021 budget. Again, it depends on the claims that we get, and because this is a program from OMAFRA, they maintain their commitment in supporting the industry growth and market competitive by limiting financial hardship to Ontario producers or farmers who have experienced loss or damages due to wildlife predation. 2020 year review for tile drainage. Again, this is a program that's not really in our control. We're basically just the administrators. This is a tile loan program that is through the province, and it's an application process that needs to be completed. This is all dependent on property owners applying for the program. Installing tile drainage is a very common and land improvement practice among farmers in Ontario. Corrugated plastic, tubing, clay, and concrete drain tile are installed beneath the surface of agricultural land to drain excess water from the crop root zone. And the benefits of tile drainage for crop productivity, farm efficiency, and even for reducing environmental impacts has been studied and are generally well known to the farmer. In Ontario, the tile drain loan program authorized by the Tile Drainage Act provides loans to agricultural property owners to help them finance these tile drainage projects, as they can be quite costly. Landowners in a municipality in Ontario planning to install a tile drain system on their agricultural land are eligible for a tile loan under this program. In continuation for 2020 year review, all tile loans have a 10-year term and repayments are made annually. Landowners are eligible for a loan of up to 75% of the value of the tile drainage work, but the OMAFRA and the township may have policies that further restrict the total dollar amount of any loan in any given year. The provincial government sets the program interest rate at a competitive level, and this rate is fixed for the full term of the loan, regardless of changes in the market interest rates. The interest rate is calculated annually, not semi-annually, as is done by most financial institutions. The application process is quite simple. Once council approves the application, the owner arranges to have the work completed by a licensed tile drainage contractor. The township will inspect the work and may charge a fee for this inspection. Once a month, the township prepares loan documents to send to OMAFRA and the amount of all the loans for that month. After processing these documents, OMAFRA issues a check to the township, which distributes loan funds to each individual applicant. The township collects the loan repayments from the owner and remits them to OMAFRA. Defaulted payments are rare, but are treated in the same manner of unpaid taxes. The loan can be repaid in full at any time. And in 2020, there was $25,665 in tile drain loans billed as well as collected. So again, it's just kind of a wash. It's in and out. So we have an applicant, they get the loan, we debenture it over 10 years at a certain interest rate. We collect the funds, we give it to them after. So we're basically just the administrator. 2021 proposed changes for tile drain. There is none unless there's an application that comes forth. And again, there'll be $25,655 that will be billed and collected for 2021. And as previously stated, the township continues to be an administrator for the tile loan program. Before I go to questions, there's three more budget pieces that I didn't have in this presentation because it's out of our control, and that's conservation authorities. So we have two conservation authorities that govern our municipality. As council knows, we have the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority and St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. And council's seen their proposed budgets as well as seen presentations from both conservation authorities. So those numbers are strictly just included in the budget from their approved budgets. With recycling, there's no changes for the last couple of years. We haven't received any revenues from that program. The recycling is a data entry information that Blue Water Recycling looks after through the Stewardship Ontario program. And because we are a shareholder with or a member with Blue Water Recycling, we won't see those revenues come in because it goes directly to the group that Blue Water Recycling is part of. And the last one is policing. Again, we don't have any control over that. It's from the province. And if there is a difference, we are notified halfway through the year to let us know what the difference is, whether it's a surplus or a deficit. And I believe in 2020, we had a surplus. We ended up getting just over $3,000 back to put back into the budget. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
We'll find out. Is there any questions at all? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, just for clarity for anybody watching and for all of us, under your the screen that has the MEU, the bylaw enforcement people, there's the comment, there's no revenue to offset that. But then if we go to the provincial offenses, the MEU is not obviously dealing with Highway Traffic Act tickets. That's the OPP. But the tidy yard bylaws and any zoning bylaws, that the MEU is the one, they're the ones, my understanding is, that would be dealing with those issues. Is that correct?
Correct.
So there is an opportunity for some sort of cost recovery. It may not be huge by any means, but there would be something that should show up under the bylaw enforcement, don't you think?
Actually, it goes through the provincial offenses part because it's a regulated fine piece that's through the Provincial Offenses Act. So it's funneled out of one budget.
We don't break it out on the budget. You just leave it under the provincial offenses because that's where it actually goes. Okay,
Correct.
Just to clarify. Okay,
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other questions at all for Jen? That was a lot of budgets that we just went through. Morgan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I guess just to kind of key in on a report on your point about a lot of budgets to go through. If council finds that they'd like to ask a question during the presentation, we're absolutely happy to take them. Going from bylaw enforcement through 3 budgets down to POA or provincial offenses is quite a lot of information to take in. So please don't hesitate to just pause us and let us know that you have a question or something.
And as Jen's, alluded to, some of these budgets there, there's not really any wiggle room in them. They are, down to, what they need. So there's not really too much to talk about for some of them, but I'm sure that there's going to be some questions in the future. So. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other questions at all, but I'm sure they'll pop up by next week. Morgan, do you have anything else that you want to discuss at all before I'm assuming we'll adjourn, because we'll go through the rest of the budgets another time, or is there any specific thing that a council wants to talk about in the proposed budget itself?
Yeah, I guess just from my perspective, next steps, we'll keep going through the department budget presentations. If council has any questions throughout the week or is looking for any further information, please don't hesitate to send it along to me. We will bring back whatever council is looking for. And then probably by the third or fourth meeting, depending on how things go, we can really start getting our hands into that budget so that we can see where I guess some of these presentations are coming from, and we'll try to tie that back to council. So I guess right now we're just trying to frame context in regard to what 2020 looks like, what we're thinking 2021 is going to look like, and then just trying to pull out any council priorities. So we'll start getting our hands right into that budget pretty soon.
Excellent. So our next meeting, Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I went through the numbers on the budget, and I have some like picky questions. So I think they may be best handled by an email initially. So you may get a lengthy email with itemized questions if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I don't want to take time tonight because there's several. So, and it may just be explanations or justifications I'm looking for. So that's all I have to say.
All right, so the next meeting that we have is February 3rd, and who do we have lined up for that night for presentations?
So I'll bring back the information on Highway 81 or Center Road, as well as a form of the administration budget. A lot of the bigger impacts that we were talking about earlier come out in the administration budget in terms of general revenues and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'll bring back a presentation for that. And then we'll have the fire chief present his fire department budget, and then we'll have Shannon present her joint building services budget and respective building services budget. And then we'll start getting into some of that right into the budget itself.
Okay, excellent. So before we do a motion to adjourn, Councillor Clark made a good point. If there's any questions, send them off. Who do we want them sent to Morgan or to Jen? To Morgan. Alrighty, so send them off to Morgan. And then if anybody is watching this, I don't see any attendees right now, but if there is any questions from any members of the public that are watching on YouTube after this is posted, send those questions off to Morgan Calvert. So it's mcalvert@adelaidemetcalfe.owen.ca. And then also, if you are interested in asking any questions or making any comments during our council meeting in the future, you can contact Jennifer Turk, our clerk, to be a delegation for our meeting. And Jen, what's the deadline for people to join for being a delegation to speak to council?
Well, that's a very good question, because we don't really outline that in our procedural bylaw with these budget meetings because they're not the typical Monday.
Yep.
But I don't see why, because I would post the agenda the day before. So as long as I know the day before and we have their topic or their questions so that we're prepared and be able to answer it, then that would be sufficient for myself to be able to put it on the agenda.
Alrighty, so why don't we go with the, if these meetings are on Wednesday, so why don't we go with the Monday at noon for you? That way you have lots of time.
Sure.
Excellent. Councillor Brody, you have any additional comments?
Yeah, through the mayor to Jen, just a comment on that. Are we gonna try to limit how many? Because if they get a 10-minute session, like all of a sudden just because we can't have this drag out too long, are we looking at maybe a cap per meeting or something like that? I guess we don't know until how many apply, basically, right?
Yep. So through Mayor Smith to Councillor Brody, I would use the same tactics I use just with a regular agenda. Knowing that we have three presentations to still go through at the next meeting. I certainly will not want too many delegations, and they'll be given 15 minutes as per procedural bylaw. But I'll certainly be using the same tactics to make sure that it's not too dragged out with delegations.
Yeah.
And just maybe adding a comment to that to the general public, like until we started getting into the meat of the budget, really, we don't know what we're totally doing just yet. So maybe they should really listen to all the presentations first and get a good idea on what their questions are going to be. So maybe they don't have to come on Same person won't have to come on multiple times, maybe.
I would say that that third budget meeting, or as always, we have the public meeting prior to passing the budget, which is an excellent time to make any comments generally about the budget. And that's the other thing is, it's a good point, is that generally with any delegations, it's more of comments because it is a fluid document until we get kind of near the end. So more so if there is any delegations that are wanting to present, and so they're generalized comments and not specific questions, because we're going to be looking at this, multiple times before we pass the budget. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I would just encourage that anybody in the public that wants to give us some input along the way, that the simplest way would be an email. And then that way the comment or concern could be addressed prior to the meeting so that it is addressed within that budget meeting.
Okay, excellent. Alrighty, so with that, I want to thank everybody so far for their presentations, and we're looking forward to our next budget meeting. So I guess with that, we need a motion to adjourn. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, seconded by, nobody wants to adjourn. Councillor Brody, all those in favor? And that's carried, and that's at 8:47.